Hello and welcome to January 14th, 2023. My name is Kurt and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is an exercise that I do every morning shortly after waking up. It's 4:41 a.m. right now. I'm running a little bit behind. I do this exercise in order to prepare myself for the day, also to reflect on yesterday, and namely to go over, think about, and work on, tinker with my personal objectives and principles that I use to live a better life, which I call the Good Life Creed. These are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which also tells the story of my adventure into deep, deep wilderness alone and the discovery of what's not out there. All right, let's begin. And good morning, Parker. First, last night and yesterday. Slept pretty good. I was really tired last night, like about 8 p.m., just finished. And I went to bed nice and early. Got a full night's sleep. Only woke up maybe once or twice throughout the night. The dog needed to jump on the bed. I don't know why he needed my help to do that, or my encouragement to do that, but I woke up with him on the side of the bed. I got up and then he hopped up, so he didn't need to go out. So although later he did, I did let him out later, but the first two times it was just, hey Dad, I'm going to jump on the bed, watch me, kind of thing. So other than that, I slept pretty well. Again, I think that's reflective of the fact and more evidence, circumstantial evidence, that my difficulty sleeping is all related to work. Because I completed a big project on Thursday. It's Saturday today. And I mean, that's a huge bit of the project that I completed. And my worries for the moment are, a little bit done. So, and as a result, I'm sleeping. Two and two together, huh? Otherwise, yesterday was a pretty good day. I think I hit all the things I needed to do, I'd set out to do. I cleaned, I did some house cleaning, did a little bit of work. I did about 3 hours work yesterday overtime. Did my house cleaning. Went to the beach twice. Didn't get in the water though, the waves are still too big and scary. And then took the dogs for some good long walks. Had a nice evening with Yumiko. She's getting nailed. We had our latest, our fourth COVID vaccine boosters. I'm feeling all right. My arm is sore, but Yumiko got nailed yesterday. She was taken out. So, but she worked through the day nonetheless. Poor thing. All right, let's do the good life. My 7 objectives are as follows. Number 1 is to be always ready to die, to have my life affairs, my relationships, and my life's work in order. 2 is to make good and effective use of time, to not let my days slip by or underutilized. That's not really the way I want to say it. Taken for granted is probably a better way to say it. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles and objectives, which I do every day by this precise exercise, reciting the Good Life Creed, sometimes to a greater or lesser degree. My minimum effort is to at least touch on every objective and every principle, name it, describe it, but even that I just have to name it. Next is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become a man who reacts well to the circumstance of life, especially the unsettling or upsetting even circumstances. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things, things that make the world a better place, where good is defined as improving the well-being of thinking creatures, aka virtuous happiness, where virtue is achieved not at the expense of the well-being of others. A little complicated way to say it, but that gets the point across. Next is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities so that I'm keeping focused on things that I'm really capable of doing. And then finally, to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. Okay, those are my 7 objectives. Those are the things that I'm striving for in life, the way that I'm trying to live. Next, let's go over my principles. And there are 34 of these. Number 1 is the principle of war, to always be fighting against truth and propositions of truth, which sounds like a strange thing to say, fighting against truth. It doesn't mean I'm fighting in support of lies. I'm fighting against my beliefs because I don't want to be holding beliefs that I discover that are not true. And the best way to do that is to maintain my skepticism about such things. And I do this war through the next principle, which I call the principle of reason, which has 3 sub-principles, or 4. Honesty, objectivity, doubt. Oh, that's it. 3. I want to be an honest man with myself and others, objective in my view, a fierce skeptic, and there's one more. There is a 4th one. Oh, humiliation. And be ready to accept the humiliation and welcome it when I discover that I'm wrong, even if it's in public. Oh, what a blessing to discover I'm wrong. And even better so if it's in public, so others can see more clearly what is not correct and what is, or maybe what is. Sometimes you can just find what's not right without knowing what is right, and that's all right. Although it's a skill to be able to be comfortable with not knowing. Next is the homunculus, my substitute for a soul, because I don't think I have a soul, but I do have a consciousness. And then the anchor hold is my reminder that my consciousness is subject to death, just like the rest of my body. It will disappear away the moment that my biology winks it off. Next comes the home of good and evil. Right and wrong are mere opinions that we hold. They don't exist in the universe at large. And then the principle of purpose. My purpose are, 1, to be a good husband and father, to fulfill my biological mandate, to reproduce. 2, to be a virtuous man, working to improve the well-being of thinking creatures. And 3, to pursue whatever personal goals I've set for myself. And for me, at this point in my life, it's sharing my book, Going Alone, and the resulting Good Life Creed. Exactly what I'm doing right now, making this video. Making this video is the fulfillment of my personal mission at this point in my life. Next comes the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces. And then the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including you and me. And then the pirate ride. Free will is an illusion. And then maturity. And the sub-principles of wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. We are mature when we wisely remember our past successes and failures, have the strength to do better, and we then get to enjoy the integrity of alignment between our values and our life. Then comes the social principle. We are social creatures. We need each other. The sub-principles here are diplomacy, justice, is that right? Diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. Diplomacy is what we do when we work together to reach agreements about the objectives of justice. And then conspiracy is linking arms to make that happen. Then comes the principle of family, a reminder to not neglect the hard work and effort to create a family of our own. It can be a traditional nuclear family or extended family or some blend of both of those, or it can be some other type of family altogether. as long as it's a network of connections that we can have. You can have a family at a dog park. The people get together every day at a certain hour. But it's good to have that. Otherwise, we wind up drifting alone, and that can take us to dangerous places, as well described in my, as amply described in my book, Going Alone. Dangers out there. Next comes the principle of public speaking. Suggestions to help us to communicate and listen better. Although I probably need to work on the listen part on this. It's mostly about outward communication. Public speaking is, as the name says. The sub-principles here are best words, to cultivate a good vocabulary and then to use it carefully. Prudence, the ability to filter our communication through our values. Felicity, the ability to add a touch of relevant emotion to our communications. Eloquence, becoming a good speaker. Takes practice. And then two negatives, rumors and gossip, which tear us down, and others down too. No good. Okay, after public speaking comes temperance, our ability to control our consumption. Consumption can include our activities as well. And then life will not go well, and it won't. There's going to be rough, sticky bits. Like I'm struggling a little bit right now. I don't want to be making this video. I'm tired, and I would rather go back and lay in bed, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it well. I'm going to enunciate and go over each of the principles and objective, each of the remaining principles without racing through it. That's temperance, tempering our consumption or our response to our emotions in every sense. Work and play and talk and thinking, everything. Eating, drinking, sex, whatever. Temperance. Not abstinence necessarily, but temperance. Next comes the principle called life will not go well. A reminder to expect to have speed bumps through the day. The next principle is the horror show. In addition to life speed bumps, there are also events of horrifying import and consequence. Diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, a terrible auto accident, you pick it. These are all horror show events. And they come to all of us to a greater or lesser degree. It's not very fair sometimes how some of us get more of it than others. The next principle is called that which must be borne with an E, or carried. And what we have to bear is the fact of the horror show and the fact that life will not go well. And then the feast of woeful. It's the upset that we throw out when we get upset at the world. And it's the upset that we consume of others when they're upset. I try to do neither. But I do offer a sympathetic hand when people are upset. Next comes I feel like I'm about to miss one. I think it's distraction. Distraction is what we do to keep ourselves busy and our minds off the subjects of philosophy and the subjects of the contemplation of the big picture. The great indifference is the next principle, and it describes the emptiness that pervades the universe, a universe without God, which means then that we are responsible for our own well-being and our own living. It's on us. That's why we distract ourselves. It's one of the reasons why we distract ourselves. Next comes the best seat in the house, to be all right with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing. And then life, comes the restless man, an observation that youth, both men and women, many of them tend to have some sort of a longing for an experience or an adventure in their life to call their own. That's the restlessness. And watch out. If we don't do it at a young age, it'll haunt us. It likely will haunt us all our lives, although we can suppress it. It'll remain there like a man bound and stuffed into a trunk, muffling inside. Next comes the path of wildness. It's the way out of one life into another life. It's stepping forward, using our gut instinct as a nudge and a prod and a guide if necessary. The great life adventure is the next principle, and this describes the yield of stepping upon the path of wildness and having a great life and having a great experience in life that yields the story of that part of our lives. It becomes our great life adventure. That's the thing that will assuage the restless man, that will mollify, comfort, solace the restless man. Shut him up. It's good to have at least one great life adventure in our lives, and although we can add them up, they can be cumulative. You can have little ones here and there, and they add up. I did it by taking them every other weekend. On a Sunday, I would take it to myself and go into the wilderness. That did the job. I didn't need to backpack through Europe, although I'm sure that would have been good. Next comes the season of philosophy. Oh, no, that's not next. Next comes the risk of avoiding risk. I think I skipped one. I'll go back and touch it just a second. I think I realize what I skipped now. The risk of avoiding risk reminds us that if we don't take a great life adventure, if we are a restless man or woman, and we don't take a great life adventure in its season, it'll probably haunt us, especially if we've just focused on the safe and sane. There's a risk of focusing on the surface level activities of life, namely education, career, home and family, preparing for old age. I skipped one, marriage, career, home, family, preparing for old age. There you go, 5 of them. We can focus on just those, but if we're a restless man or woman, we're going to feel like we're missing something. On the converse, if we do the opposite, if we focus on just the adventure, and we don't focus on these, then we might be in a bad state too. It's best to try to find a way to mitigate both risks. I recommend doing that by giving yourself a great life adventure after university and between age 30. Take those years to yourself. Go out and do whatever it is you're going to do, and then come back, and then start the sane and sober, settled life after that. Peppering it intermittently with adventure. You'll have your story then. You will have successfully mitigated the risk, the deep risk of not attending to the restless man or the restless woman. Okay, there's that. Now comes, the one I forgot, which is the best seat in the house. To be all right with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. Now I come back up to, after the risk of avoiding risk comes sin and damnation. There are 8 sins in my worldview related to believing things that are not true, being untrue, or spreading rumors or engaging in gossip. That's basically it. And the consequence of engaging in any of those things is damnation in the here and now. I don't believe in any soul or forever or God or heaven or hell or punishment or justice, final justice. So that's we have to attend to these things now if we're going to live a better life now. The next principle is called complete oblivion. For all the aforementioned reasons, when we're dead, that's the end of us, I believe. And then there'll be no reunion with our loved ones, no chance to reconcile differences, and no chance to see justice served. We have to work towards those things in the here and now. The next is the season of philosophy. A reminder when the muse speaks, to write it down, because she tends to depart quickly. And then the bullseye aim, shooting for the mark but usually missing. The uphill climb, finishing today higher than yesterday, with a more expansive view of life. Arena and utility. It's good to cultivate principles and objectives that we can use as our utility items in the effort to live well. Nothing is enough. A reminder that less is sometimes a lot better, a lot more. And then finally, the principle of fun. A reminder to try to do your best to have a good time in spite of all the challenges and the pain. Enjoy today. Plan out the moments of the day. forecast them through the day. Don't just let them happen. And don't just settle for the easy wins of a stiff drink, but go for the more challenging wins of a well-lived life. Also enjoy the remembrance of yesterday and the thoughts of tomorrow. All right, good. That's my good life creed. Now let's plan out the day. It's spot on 5 a.m. It's actually 5:01 a.m. just now. I have still 2 hours before I need to do my book reading on the beach. So that gives me time to finish this up. I'll feed the dogs. I'll upload this. I'll feed the dogs, walk the dogs, or let them out at least. Maybe walk them if they actually want to go out. It's been a little bit chilly, but it's a little warmer today. Then I'll fire up the computer, update my journal, and then I'll pack out my stuff up and go to the beach and do my book reading. Maybe I'll go a little bit early to get there before the rain starts. Then I'll come back here. I'll clean the house, and then Yumiko and I will start our day in earnest, planning our trip, doing all the things we need to do to get ready for our trip to Japan. Hopefully, if Yumiko's feeling better, that is. And I think Emily and Chris might come over for dinner tonight. We'll see. I feel a little bit better. I just powered right through. The coffee helped a little bit. Maybe that vaccine is, nailing me a little bit too. Just, it's on the down low. I got a persistent itch here too for some reason. Need to get back in the ocean. I've skipped it for 3 days because of the big waves. A little bit scary. Strong currents. Didn't want to get in. Maybe today. All right. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. And with that, my life is done. Take care.